Welcome back, folks. I'm Frizz, and today I'd like to take some time to talk about crafting. Crafting is interesting in Pathfinder 2e. It's been an element of the game that people have been complaining and discussing about for just about as long as Pathfinder 2e has existed, and I think that it's a fair criticism of the system. Paizo did address this a little bit in the Treasure Vault, but it still has been a bit of a sour spot in 2e as a system, even after the Treasure Vault came out. Let's start with the original crafting rules, which are a bit basic. So long as you have the instructions on how to make something, a suitable workplace, and a minimum of half the price of the item that you're trying to make, you can make it with 4 days of time. If you at least succeed on your crafting check, you can then spend the remaining half of that item's sell price to make it immediately. Or instead spend additional days making up that price by effectively earning income. You could stop at any point to finish making the item, but then, you'll have to pay up the remaining money that you didn't effectively reduce by earning income. Basically, if you want to make an item quickly, it takes you 4 days and you don't get a single discount. You can make consumable items in bulk, but it's still pretty dang slow as it still takes that 4-day period, and not getting any discount is pretty rough. As much as this crafting system does leave a lot to be desired, I get why it is like this. 2e actively works to not be overly clunky and complicated, and crafting items using the system from the core rulebook is pretty dang straightforward. If you can't buy a particular item in a shop, you can spend some time to try and make it yourself. Where it really falls short is if you want to make items for your team to be a core part of your character's whole vibe. It really doesn't fulfill that fantasy. Paizo did try and address this a bit with the complex crafting system in the Treasure Vault. Rather than taking an amount of time to craft literally everything, and that time, being 4 days, now, instead, crafting an item takes an amount of time depending on the difference in your level and the item's level, with lower level items obviously being faster to make, and consumable items being, faster than making a permanent item. Additionally, as you increase your proficiency in crafting, you can choose to increase the crafting DC to reduce the number of days to craft something, which can potentially bring it all the way down to 4 hours of time. Yeah, not days, it's measured in hours. This system does allow for you to make certain items during an adventuring day, and relatively quickly if you've only got a couple of days of downtime to prepare for a specific threat. But it still doesn't have what a lot of people are looking for. It doesn't really let you outfit your party with gear any better than the previous system from the core rulebook. It just lets you do it faster. I think that overall, complex crafting is better than the core rulebook's version of crafting, even if it is a little bit trickier to use, but it doesn't really address everything. The problem is that a lot of the core appeals of playing a crafting character are really, really hard to not make completely broken in Pathfinder 2e, and Paizo's been actively avoiding those kinds of completely broken abilities. In basically every TTRPG system that I've played, gear and equipment are directly related to character power. So if you've got someone in the party who's dedicated just making gear, then that party is going to be dramatically more powerful than a party that doesn't have a crafter. This becomes more and more obvious the further along you get a campaign, because that gives, the crafter more time to make stuff. To be entirely honest with you, I don't know how I'd make a crafting skill system to recreate the classical crafting fantasy that I think a lot of people are after. Personally, the approach that I'd take would be to just make a dedicated crafting or gear enhancer archetype that allows for you to tweak or add effects to your ally's gear temporarily to better suit whatever threat you're making. So, I don't know, making an adjustment to your ally's sword, or you sharpen your ally's sword, which just gives it an additional effect for that day. So rather than it being permanent increases to power, which are very complicated, instead it could, just be a temporary increase to power, which is a lot more in line with what 2e allows PCs to do normal. It's a messy problem either way you look at it. thanks for watching. I really wish that I could give a definitive answer to how to handle crafting, but I'm really at a bit of a loss on how to add just a general crafting system to 2e without busting the balance that it's known for. Anyway, do you have any thoughts on it? Let me know in a comment down below, and while you're down there, you can always consider subscribing or joining up as a member. My members really help me out. Regardless, until I see you next, live a wonderful life.